Okay, today we're going to do a practice with the liquid tempera, the liquid acrylics, and the tempera cakes. We are going to start doing it the same way we did on the other side with our watercolor techniques and the different layering kind of practices we did with that. You're going to divide your paper into those 4 squares again. I kind of saw where my fold was, so I just kind of guessed. You are going to have to draw the 2 objects and the bucket. And I'm going to do it kind of quick so that I can get on with doing the painting for you. You only need to do 3 of them today because I only have the tempera, the acrylic, and then the tempera cake. So this should go a little bit faster because we've done a lot of practices with this already. The reason I want to just kind of go over this with you is because you'll just practice in general is good for you, as well as it'll help you kind of figure out how to blend the colors and things like that. So as we get on to other projects like sculpture as well as just paintings in general, you'll have a little bit more background because it's been a while probably since a lot of you have done this. To start, I'm going to do the tempera cakes, and the tempera cakes are kind of like the watercolors that we have done in the past where you have to get them wet to sort of activate them. Okay, so I can also use my paint palette to mix colors on here if I don't have the right color. So I kind of just get water in the green. I'm gonna put it right on here on my apple. Did we do this with the other ones? The watercolors? I don't think so. Did we?
I think we did.
Did we? Works the same. So they're nice and bright. If you need to sort of add value to it, you can add the dark blue. You can add the purple. I'm going to get the purple wet. I'm going to do the same with my bucket here. I'm not going to get too close. I'm going to fill up my space.
I think we did this
My red apple. I don't think we did.
we didn't. Crayon and
No.
Not with the tempera.
oh.
Not with the tempera. We did the watercolor.
No, we did it with the watercolor.
Oh yeah.
And this is pretty similar to it, but it goes on a lot brighter. So I just wanted to let you have like a practice at it, okay? Because it does look a little different. If you wanted to make something like a yellowy green, a little bit lighter, I kind of made mine dark. You can use the yellow and the green to do that, and you can use a paint palette to mix your colors together. Does that make sense? There's your space to mix it. Okay, so now, if I'm going to use I'm gonna start with tempera. I'm gonna get some colors. Who can tell me the amount of colors I said you can start with?
5,000.
Thank you, Mason. You are wrong, Tenzin. You can start with 4. Do you remember the kind of the rules I had established?
No.
Okay.
I just know that there's 4.
There's 4. So you can get 2 colors, and then you always get a free white and a free black. So there are the 4 colors that you'll have to choose from. I am going to take my green, and I'm only going to give myself a very small amount. Who can tell me why I don't need a lot of paint?
Because it goes a really long way.
It does. You are absolutely correct. And if it looks like it's clogged, because some of them have caps that have come off now, there is a paper clip kind of on the windowsill over there, kind of behind where by my painting supplies cleanup. Thank you. You can put it back. I don't think I'll need it. And you can just, you kind of poke it in there and kind of loosen it up. If it has a cap on it, it'd be great if you kept it covered. That way it will not dry up, and that way it will work for everyone who uses it. So I always use water to sort of get the paint a little bit runnier, because sometimes when it comes out of my containers, it's a little bit thicker than I want it to be. So I always make sure my brush is wet to start with. So I'm going to start with my green paint, and I'm going to fill my paint in like so. Now, if I want to add a little bit of white to it, I can just dip right in and I can paint right over the surface to sort of blend the white together. So I can blend it right on the paper to lighten it, or I can blend it together on my paint palette. Green over here. The tempera, when it dries, it will dry kind of chalky and dull looking. So that is kind of the difference between the tempera and the acrylic. The tempera has a few more colors that were pre-made, meaning I've got pink and purple and orange and green. In the acrylics, I don't have as many colors. That's a type of material that I usually just buy your standard colors like yellow, red, and blue, and you will have to make the secondary colors or any of the tertiary or intermediate colors, okay? So this is about blending. So I'm gonna start with this, and I'm gonna let this dry, and then I'm gonna come on over here to my acrylics, and I'm gonna add, I have a few more colors just for the sake of the demo. When you do this today, you are going to find a friend, and you are going to share with them so that we only have to clean one paint palette today. That will be a little bit helpful when it comes to cleanup, and it'll give us an opportunity to practice. Ooh, this one is really clogged. We'll do black instead. A little bit black on here. And even if this is broken, it's good to just keep it on there. So I am going to, this time on my paint palette, I'm going to get my paint wet, and I'm going to start with a little bit of yellow, and I'm going to do a very small amount of green. A little bit goes a long way again. So if you are going to mix white to black to make gray, you should always start with white and add a little bit of black at a time, okay? So the darker color should always be the one you add in second. So I'm gonna put my background color of my apple on here. I can go back with a little bit of the regular green to add the value like we were practicing, so adding some layers to this, so that it feels like the apple is actually three-dimensional, not just a flat shape on my paper. I can go back and add some water to that. If I rinse off my brush, I can go back with a little bit of black if I want to kind of add the value underneath on my bucket. Can use the black for my, if you want, you can kind of mix them together to see how it works. Feel free to maybe do one apple in acrylic, like the greens are in acrylic and then the red apples are in tempera, so you can kind of play around with them so you can practice layering them, okay? Does that kind of make sense? Yeah.
Are we having like the, are we gonna do like with the watercolors, it was like, you have to have like Payne's gray, or like you have to have...
You don't have to do Payne's gray in this. It doesn't work like this way. But it would be great if you could label and say, this is tempera paint. Here's acrylic. I do want you to try to practice that blending and layering so that things start to look three-dimensional, not just a flat color anymore. This is tempera cakes. This is just an opportunity, cakes, to practice using the materials as well as to practice cleaning it up. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So of you over there, did you see everything that I did here? Because there's a lot of things in your way. Yes, my dear.
How do we know the difference from the tempera and acrylic?
It is labeled at the top of the container. One says TEMP for tempera, and the others say ACRY for acrylic. Okay, and if you label them on here and you point to what it is, when it dries, you'll start to see the difference as well. Does that make sense? Yes, Max.
Well, when we're painting, will it do something weird if we mix tempera with acrylic?
You can try it. It might look a little, let's try it and see. I don't typically use it like that. I prefer acrylic paint. When I came, I had tons of tempera paint. So I have a lot of them, so a lot will go a long way. So it's a good base layer sometimes, and then we can always add details on top of it. And then you kind of have a combination of that dull and the shiny, which is kind of a nice feature too. I just want you to practice. I want you to practice seeing what happens when you blend colors on your paint palette, when you blend them on the paper, when you try to make something look three-dimensional. Just kind of those skills that we are trying to work on. Yes, sir?
Clarify, we're going to get the whole palette, we're going to get the whole thing palette, but we only get 3 of those. 2 of each.
Well, today you can have 2 tempera, 2 acrylic, and then you can get white and black.
And then for the...
You may have one of these at your table, and you're going to find a partner, and you're going to work with that partner. And then you can share a cup of water, and you can have, put your hand down, please, and you can each have a brush or 2. Does that make sense? In case you want a little one and a big one?